Hi again, everybody. I have a message from Anonymous, and here's what they want you to know. Hi, Ollie. Thank you for what you're doing to help our community. Your channel has really helped me. I am writing. I'm writing you because I'd like to get my story out and also ask for your advice. Can you please make a video about my story? Can you please also keep me anonymous? I apologize that I don't have any money to contribute to the channel. I am currently a broke college student and don't have much of an income. I also apologize for the length of this letter. My story is pretty crazy, but it's very difficult to pare it down. This is just some of the basics of my experiences with my narc parents. I have been I believe both my parents have NPD. My mom passed away several years ago. My dad is still living. I first heard about narcissism when I started seeing a counselor about a year after my mom died. The therapist gave my mom an unofficial diagnosis of NPD, unofficial because she obviously couldn't diagnose my deceased mother in person. Unfortunately, this therapist left the practice, so I haven't been able to keep seeing her. But she introduced me to the concept of NPD. My father always seemed like a decent guy, parent, in comparison to my mom and her hysterics. But now that my mom is gone, it is apparent to me that my dad is simply a covert narcissist that always hid his own narc tendencies behind my mom's more overt behavior. My dad is the kind of creepy covert narc that comes across as charming and has most people in his community fooled. Sounds like my father and mother. Same thing I had to discover. I thought for years my main problem was my mother, and she was a major problem. But my father, Normus, still is the covert narc hiding behind her overt craziness. Looking back, I now realize I had a physically, emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically abusive childhood. I began to realize that something really wasn't healthy in my family dynamic when I was about 18 to 20 years old. During this time, my parents became obsessed with controlling me in basically every way imaginable. I worked for my parents and was still living with them up until I got married at 20 years old. I now suspect that I got married this young because it helped me escape their abuse. I am very happy in my marriage and with my husband, but I also think that I got married young because it helped me escape a bad situation. Yeah, you did. You're always looking to get out. That's why a lot of us get married young. Like when something bad happens, usually for me it was just like like another bad fight, another bad incident where right before I met my ex-wife. That's usually how it happens because you're so desperate to get out. Now, luckily, it sounds like you're happy in your marriage, so you lucked out. A lot of us end up in shitty situations because of that. I worked for my parents, had my name on a car with them, and also lived in a secluded area. So it was at the mercy to be allowed to use the car and couldn't come and go like a regular dope. Same thing my parents did to me. Put their name on a car and then tried to control the car at 21 years old. It's another control. It's why you don't accept anything from narcissists. Now, you didn't realize what they were at the time, but my point is the same. My parents tried to enforce an 11 p.m. curfew on me when I was 20 years old and also tried to dictate who I could date. I mainly dated men from other countries, and my parents were unfortunately very prejudiced and even downright racist towards them. So I learned very quickly to hide my romantic life from them. My parents were also very religious and tried to convince me to date guys from their church that I had no interest in, one of which even ended up coming out as gay. They were also completely obsessed with my sexuality and demanded I remain a virgin until marriage. When I was 18, they forced me to go on a church missions trip to a country in South Latin America. While on the trip, I fell for one of the locals and he became my boyfriend. We dated long distance for almost a year after we met. We had a great relationship. My parents found out about the relationship, and even though I never slept with them, they treated me like I was a whore. They shamed and guilted me, asked me how I could ever consider myself to be a Christian, which is a major insult in their book. My dad also called me a slut to my face. I never ended up sleeping with this guy, but my parents were relentless, obsessed with my sexuality, and went to great lengths to try to control me sexually. I guarantee you, your parents are sexual deviants. Your mother and father, your mother when she was alive, and your father. That's what this is all about. Again, my parents were also strange about my body and sexuality. One of my worst memories is my father aggressively slapping my butt in front of one of my brother's friends when I was about 16 years old. He did this completely out of the blue. I told you, they're perverts. I knew it. I knew it. When you got religion and this obsessive anti-sex type of deal going on with narcissists, they're sexual deviants themselves, and they usually end up showing that. When I was 19, I met my current husband, dated him for about a year, and then ended up marrying him. My husband is from another country, and my parents were very racist and prejudiced against him. The day I finally told my parents that I was engaged and going to marry him was the worst day of my life. When I told them I was engaged, they both became enraged and told me I was stupid for wanting to get married. I thought they were Christian. I thought Christianity was all about getting married. They both went into fits of hysteria and rage. I was fearful for my physical safety, so I left the house. I was truly fearful for my life, so I left with no real plan, and luckily was able to stay with my fiancé and his roommate. I returned later that evening to gather some of my belongings and move out. I remember that my mother was in complete hysteria and busted out of the bedroom, scream crying when I refused to stay home. My father was eerily calm and tried to convince me to stay. The most heartbreaking part of that situation was that I ended up having to leave my then 14-year-old brother, who begged me not to. I felt horrible leaving my brother behind, but I was honestly afraid for my physical safety, so I left. 3 days after I moved out, my mom unexpectedly died from a heart condition I was never told about. To this day, I'm not sure if my parents knew that my mom had this heart condition, but my dad claimed not to. I received a call from my dad explaining that my mom had a heart attack and was in the hospital. At first, I assumed this was a ploy to get me come back home, and I didn't believe him. When I innocently asked him what caused the heart attack, he responded, "We aren't blaming anyone right now. My father tried to insinuate I caused my mom's heart attack by moving out." No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I went to the hospital. My parents' asshole pastor actually approached me and told me that he hoped that I could put my feelings about my family behind me and be there for my family right now. Clearly, they weren't concerned about being there for me or the fact that I was trying to leave an abusive home. This same pastor did my mom's funeral, which he made into an inappropriate sermon on how you shouldn't allow things to come between you and other people. He basically made the whole funeral a sermon type lecture directly at me about my behavior. He made passive aggressive comments in the sermon about not holding grudges, and he even mentioned strange things about weddings, which I'm sure he had to do with my engagement. After the funeral, several people came up to me and asked me if he was talking about me in the sermon, so it was apparent to others as well. After this experience, I stopped going to church or following any religion. Yeah, you should. This is the problem with religious types. And I guarantee you that this pastor was probably involved in the parents' sexual deviance. I guarantee it. That's why he's defending it. That's why he's such a willing and able flying monkey. I got married a few months after my mom passed away. My father threatened that he wouldn't be able to attend the wedding, but then he changed his mind right before the wedding. My brother was also upset that I was getting married, which I think was really coming from my father. He asked me if I was just getting married just so that I could have sex. My dad really triangulated my brother and I at this point, but I have been able to overcome his tactics and now, again, have a good relationship with my brother. Again, it's about sex. Your father is a deviant, and I have to ask you the question, did something happen that you're blocking out and don't remember with this guy? I've gotten no contact with my dad, but still maintain a good relationship with my little brother, who's more like my child than my brother. We are 6 years apart, and I essentially raised him because our parents were emotionally absent and didn't do basic things for us, like regularly cooking. I also shielded him from a lot of their abuse. He took my place as the scapegoat when I moved out. We basically had to fend for ourselves and ended up taking care for both my brother and I. I am concerned because my brother is now 18 and still living with my dad. My brother plans to move out soon and go to school in another state, but I fear that his plans will fall through. My brother has a college fund that might pay for 1 or 2 years at community college, but my dad is trying to keep him from obtaining the money and isn't helping him prepare for school for obvious reasons. My father also refused to use any of the hundreds of thousands of dollars he received from my mom's life insurance policy to help my brother or I with our college tuition. I am concerned that my brother may end up essentially stuck living there, like I did. I'm trying to find a way to help my brother, but also stay no contact with my dad. My brother is aware our dad is toxic, but he really doesn't understand narcissism yet and seems to fall for a lot of his narc tactics. What would you recommend I do to help my brother without compromising my own healing and decision to go no contact? I mainly want to get my story off my chest and to ask you for advice at helping my brother. Thanks, Anonymous. Well, thank you for sending me your story. First thing is, you didn't give your mother a heart attack. Your mother gave herself a heart attack probably because she lived like an idiot. Probably lived unhealthy, ate unhealthy. People who live like this don't deny themselves anything. They do what they want. You did not give your mother a heart attack. Secondly, your father is obsessed with sex. And he probably has some real inappropriate feelings towards you, and that's where a lot of it comes from. Now, your brother, he's 18. He's been there. Your father's not giving him the money he's owed. He's for his college fund, and you don't want to. You want to help him without. You want to help him without engaging your father. Well, the problem is you're not going to be able to force him to give you that money, regardless. So your brother's got to make the decision, and you got to be able to get it through to him somehow. Like, this is only going to get worse for you. This doesn't get better. This only gets worse. You're 18 years old. You're at an age now where you need to be kind of making decisions, living your life a little. The first thing your brother should do is live his life a little, because he's 18 and he should find out what he wants to do. Other than college, you should figure out how he can move out, either if it's possible for him to move in with you and go to college and you guys can make things work and get a job somewhere, but he needs to be out of there. But it sounds like he's not even sure what to do right now. The best you can do is give him the basis of narcissism. Is give him, tell him to research narcissism and ask him, who does this sound like to you? And this is how it's going to end. It's going to end miserable, and it's going to end with abuse. It always does. You're not going to be able to force your brother to see the light. You can help him, you can guide him, but he's 18 years old and he's been under your father's thumb, and he might be hoping that he somehow gets his college fund money, which your father's never going to give to him, because it's control. Now that your mother died, your father's got nobody left to control. Nobody other than your brother. So I would be very concerned. You are now out of his life. Because remember, your father is an overt narcissist. It means he needs to, a covert narcissist, which means he needs to hide his narcissism behind somebody who's more overt and outward about it. I wonder what would have happened if my mother, Drunky the Fuck Clown, had died and left my father. It would probably have been the same dynamic, because when the covert narcissist loses their overt narcissistic shield, they're completely exposed. Your father might be a little vulnerable right now because he don't know what to do. He has no shield. He has no shield now. Might be a good time to call him out publicly. You're withholding money. I know you don't want to engage him, but you need to give your brother the tool to engage him and say, you are withholding money. You were fucked up. You used to hide your bullshit behind our mother. Your brother could have that conversation with him because your brother is still there. And your brother needs to make plans to get out of the house. Everything that you talked about is similar shit I went through. Whether it's the name on the car so they can control you as a grown adult, trying to put curfews on you and take cars away, and the sexual shit, it just doesn't end. The only difference is your mother dropped dead, mine didn't. God, I wish. You're almost lucky on that one. Consider yourself lucky. Because that bitch, if she was still alive, let me tell you something, your life would be a whole hell of a lot worse. So consider where you are right now. You got one narcissist out of your life, not you personally or physically, obviously, but that one's gone. And what you got now is a wounded, covert narcissist. And it doesn't sound like he's too good on his tactics. You need to talk to your brother about him confronting your father and say, I'm going to college, you're going to give me this money, or I'm going the route of my sister, and you will have nobody around. Maybe the fear of God will loosen him up. Maybe. I doubt it, but it's worth the shot. The only thing you could do is figure out a way for your brother to get out of that house. If he really wants to leave, if he's ready, you're not going to be able to force him to do anything he's not ready to do yet. You got to be there for support, but you also got to be there. You got to be there to support him, but you also got to be wary that your brother could end up turning on you because of the narc abuse himself, because he may not know how to process it. It's a reality you're going to have to face and deal with. But you're in a situation that you need to be focusing on yourself right now. You need to be getting through college, working on your marriage, which are you're newly married, you're still very young. You're not going to be able to help your brother and help yourself at the same time. You need to concentrate on yourself first. Put yourself in a position where you can then help your brother. Get through college, still communicate with your brother, try to help him, but you're not really in a position where you can help him right now. The best thing you can do right now for your brother is to finish school and get to a point where you can help him. Okay? By saving yourself and helping yourself, you're helping your brother, because then you will be able to help him out and help him get out of there without holding things over his head like your family always did to him and taking things away and the manipulation. So that's really my best advice for you. You know, stay in school, finish what you're doing, work on yourself, work on getting yourself to a point that you can help him. Okay? Because you're trying to help him and yourself at the same time. Both will end up failing, because it's too much to take on, especially when you're learning about narcissism and you really can't see a therapist right now, and you know you're kind of stuck between issues. Okay, focus on yourself first. Fix yourself first. Don't cut your brother out. Still help him everywhere you can, but you really need to focus on your life. Needs to be on you right now. So thank you for your question, and I hope this works out. You know, you got to work on yourself, and that's where it's got to stay. So I hope this video helps. Thank you again for writing. Please, everybody who's watching, please leave any advice or comments in the comment section below. And again, if you have a story or you have a audio that you would like to share on the channel, or you just like to contribute to the channel and see it grow, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ali Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again soon.